Dear students, let's learn how to read the lesson. Oliver asks for more. All of you open your textbooks and listen carefully. A. Reading. Oliver asks for more. This is an extract from the novel Oliver Twist, written by the British novelist Charles Dickens, 1812 to 70. It is the story of an orphan boy named Oliver who is brought to a children's home. Mr. Bumble walked on with long strides. Little Oliver, firmly grasping his gold laced cuff, trotted beside him. Oliver had not been within the walls of the workhouse a quarter of an hour when Mr. Bumble informed him that the board had said he was to appear before it forthwith. Not having a very clearly defined notion of what a live board was, Oliver was rather astonished by this information and was not quite certain whether he ought to be laugh or cry. He had no time to think about the matter. Mr. Bumble asked Oliver to follow him into a large whitewashed room where 8 or 10 fat gentlemen were sitting round a table. At the top of the table, seated in an armchair rather higher than the rest, was a particularly fat gentleman with a very round red face. Bow to the boat, said Bumble. Oliver brushed away 2 or 3 tears that were lingering in his eyes, and seeing no board but the table, bowed to that. What's your name, boy? Said the gentleman in the high chair. Oliver was frightened at the sight of so many gentlemen, which made him tremble. The beadle gave him a tap on his back with his cane, which made him cry. Boy, said the gentleman in the high chair, listen to me. You know you are an orphan, I suppose. What's that, sir? Inquired poor Oliver. The boy is a fool. I thought he was, said the gentleman in the white waistcoat. Turn to the next page. Hush, said the gentleman who had spoken first. You know you have got no father or mother, and that you were brought up by the parish, weren't you? Yes, sir, replied Oliver, weeping bitterly. What are you crying for? Inquired the gentleman in the white waistcoat. I hope you say your prayers every night, said another gentleman in a gruff voice, and pray for the people who feed you and take care of you like a Christian. Yes, sir, stammered the boy. Well, you have come here to be educated and taught a useful trade, said the red faced gentleman in the high chair. So you will be to pick Occam tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, added the surly one in the white waistcoat. Oliver bowed low, directed by the beadle, and was then hurried away to a large ward where, on a rough, hard bed, he sobbed himself to sleep. Poor Oliver, as he lay sleeping, unconscious of everything around him, the board had taken a decision that would change the course of his life. The members of the board were very wise and philosophical men. As they turned their attention to the workhouse, they discovered that it was the regular place of public entertainment for the poorer classes. It was the place where they had breakfast, dinner, tea, and supper all the year round and free, where it was all play and no work. This was really a shocking state of affairs. They were of the opinion that the poor should be given only two alternatives, either to starve quickly outside the workhouse or gradually inside the house. With this view, they decided that the inmates of the workhouse would be issued 3 meals of thin gruel a day with an onion twice a week. For the first 6 months, after Oliver Twist was moved in, the system was in full operation. As a result, during this period, the number of workhouse inmates got smaller and the inmates themselves shrank in size and became thinner. The room in which the boys were fed was a large hall with a big copper bowl at one end, out of which the master, dressed in an apron for the purpose, and assisted by one or two women, ladled the gruel at meal time. Of this festive composition, each boy had one basinful and no more, except on occasions of great public rejoicing, when he had 2 ounces and a quarter of bread besides. Children, I hope you have learned how to read properly.